Hello, everybody, and welcome to a fantastic new edition of Notes from Hollywood live on the PromoHomo.TV network. I couldn't be more excited to welcome you to the show. Today on the broadcast, I have an amazing trans activist, Blossom C. Brown, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit about her right now. So, Blossom C. Brown is an amazing, extraordinary human being, and I actually came to know her on season 1 of Am Cait. She's an actress, producer, now writer, motivational speaker, and activist. She's originally from the Birthplace of Blues in Greenwood, Mississippi. She got her degree in public health education from Mississippi University for Women, where she became the first openly black trans woman to graduate. Her story got the world's attention when she appeared on season 1 of Caitlyn Jenner's docuseries Am Cait, and for her appearance on The Ellen Show in season 13. She also became well known when she interrupted Don Lemon and Beto O'Rourke, on a CNN LGBTQ Townhall. And I'm going to be I'm not going to be black, but all Black Lives Matter. I'm going to be back with Blossom after this. So this is the second edition of Notes from Hollywood on PromoHomo.TV. We've launched this week as a full-fledged online broadcast network with 5 unique series and other breaking news and programming. And as I was reflecting on the launch of this network, knowing for recent months I was working to expand my own voice in the tragic wake of the George Floyd killing, when so many of us became so much more aware of the reality that Black Lives Matter, and I realized how much more I need to be part of the solution and to understand my own systemic, my own role in systemic racism. It was really important to me to have some programming right out of the gate that really focused on the fact that Black Lives Matter, and in fact, all Black Lives Matter. And you may wonder what I mean by that. Well, I'm going to welcome to the show now my special guest for today, Blossom C. Brown. Welcome so much, Blossom. It's so great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Nicholas. It's so good to see you.
I don't have your... oh, there, your audio is on now. I have your audio now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. So, Blossom, please tell me off the bat what the phrase "all Black Lives Matter" means.
Absolutely. For me, all Black Lives Matter means every subgroup within the Black community is important. Every subgroup within the Black community should be heard. We should not be erasing each other from that. We should all feel a part of the movement. And for me, I really think it's an opportunity for us to really take a look at what Black lives are looking like these days, and with all this disruption and everything that's going on. As a Black trans woman, I think it's really important that other Black people within my community understand that I do exist. That has not been easy. It has not been easy, and so it's just, for me, honestly, it's just simply all of our Black lives mattering. And again, just not having to erase each other or feeling like we have to compete for this light.
That's very well said. One of the things I hadn't heard of it until I did some preliminary research with you for the broadcast. I didn't see the October 11th, 2019 town hall. But once I heard about it, it was very easy for me to find the viral video of you as passionately as you probably express yourself. Why don't you take me and my viewers back to that moment? Describe how, in fact, you ended up holding a microphone in your hand, how long it was into the town hall, and what happened next.
Yeah, that was such a crazy day. I was invited by the Human Rights Campaign, who I've been volunteering with for almost like 5, 6 years now, and who've been so good to me. And they were hosting a CNN LGBTQ town hall where basically all of the candidates that were running for president at the time, LGBTQ voices. It was an opportunity for LGBTQ voices to be heard and what they are wanting from these candidates. And so the way it worked was everybody got to submit questions. And so there were about 5 questions that you can ask the candidate. And basically, if CNN picked your question, you will be flown out to Los Angeles to be able to ask the candidate your question yourself. And for me, I knew my question didn't get selected, but I was just excited about being there. And I was excited that I knew one of my trans siblings at least got theirs selected. And so as time went on, Beto O'Rourke was like the sixth candidate. And up to that point, we had not heard from a black trans person, specifically black trans woman. And by this time, I had already looked on social media and I can see the hurt and the frustration that was happening from my black trans siblings. And, I was sitting up there thinking to myself, how dare I sit there and not say anything? And as speakers were coming up to the mic to ask their questions to these candidates, they were elevating the black trans voice as much as possible. But the reality of it is, when you have the group that you're wanting to elevate in the room, you have to be willing to pass the mic to them to be able to be a voice. And Lizette Trujillo and her son Danny, ironically, were at the mic. And I saw where Lizette was trying to amplify the voices of trans women, of black trans women. There's a part in the video where you can actually hear me saying black trans women. And I literally just stood up. Something came over me. Something I couldn't really describe the feeling. It was just something that was in my gut, and I just knew that I had to bring out. I got up and I told Lizette, I don't mean to take this away from you, but I just have something to say. And the rest is history. I kind of talked about how black trans women were being killed in this country, and the erasure of black trans women in that program. And also, I threw a little bit of a shout out to our black trans brothers, because even though that's not an experience I don't live or can really speak from, it's also I must also include them in the conversation somehow, some way. And so, everything literally happened so fast. I was kind of just going off adrenaline and, having to have that conversation with Dawn, because what was happening was there were trans women that did get up to speak. There were a few of our Latinx sisters, and I thought that what they were saying was super important. But the reality of it is, I felt like the programming was using our Latinx sisters to erase Black trans people from the conversation, tokenization, in other words. And so, my point to Don was, because he made this comment about, we're here to try to give people like you a voice. The reality of it is, up to that sixth candidate, not one Black trans voice was heard. And what I needed done to understand was, you can't say that and those actions not meet up with those words. And ironically, over the last several months, people have been asking me, have me and Don even had that conversation after the whole CNN town hall? The answer to that is no. We have not had that conversation, but I feel like the universe is going to end up pushing us together some kind of way where we will eventually have to have that conversation, because I've been thinking a lot about it lately. And now I'm like, okay, how can we talk about this? How can we really look at what's going on here? But Beto O'Rourke was so kind. He was so sweet. His team reached out to me afterwards, and they were definitely willing to be a part of the solution um, instead of the problem, which was really great. And I will say, I didn't do it for fame. I didn't do it for attention. I did it because when you are seeing yourself erased, that is the opportunity for you to say something. How can change start when you don't open up your mouth to acknowledge a problem? And that's what I felt like I was doing. I'm so grateful and I'm so humble, that it got the power that it had. And I really hope that it encouraged other people to be able to open up their voices and have their voices heard. But yeah, that was a crazy roller coaster, but I don't regret it. And I'm just so grateful for that even happening because it opened up so many new doors of conversation.
Well, I think it's interesting that people would accuse you of doing that to be famous because you have already become one of the more famous trans women, at least in the United States, because of your inclusion in season 1 of I Am Cait. And that's when I personally, really fell in love with you and your
Oh,
spirit and your presence. And I can see that support group circle that you were a part of in the particular episode where we first saw you.
yeah.
Why don't you recap for the viewers how you ended up connected with the show I Am Cait, and how that sort of unfolded all the way up to your appearance on the Ellen show?
Yeah, so it was my last semester of college. And what a lot of people didn't know was up to that time, I had been struggling to get in nursing school. Keeping in mind, I'm from one of the most conservative states in the United States, Mississippi, born and raised. And, I had transitioned in college. And so part of the reason why I didn't get into a lot of these nursing programs was because I had openly transitioned. They wouldn't tell me that. And I knew it would be an uphill battle trying to prove that. But I know because I had the grades that were solid. I had the ACT scores that were solid and so forth. And so what happened was I started volunteering with the Human Rights Campaign. And so they were the ones that really gave me the platform to be able to share my story. And as time has gone along, as time went on, and I started working more with them, this conversation about Caitlyn Jenner after she did her interview with Diane Sawyer came up. And I had spoken at the HRC National Dinner prior to that. And Jeff Old, who was president of E Entertainment at the time, him and his partner, him and his husband, I should say, were in the audience. And they are definitely good friends of mine. I love them so much. And so they had HRC reach out to me about coming to San Francisco along with other trans women of color to have that conversation with Caitlyn and what it looked like based on her privilege, access, and just transitioning. And so I was in DC for business, for college actually, but I gladly accepted the invitation. And so they flew me and other trans women of color, including who we all know, Angelica Ross from Pose and American Horror Story, in that list of other powerful, influential trans women of color. And, we all sat there and we all had that conversation with Caitlyn. And honestly, it was a time when I was really, really vulnerable. I was vulnerable. Acknowledging my struggles and how Ellen DeGeneres was actually one of my biggest inspirations growing up, which she actually was. When she came out in the 90s, I remember she had her TV show, and I remember how that was stripped away from her because she came out as herself. And ironically, years later, in like 2003, she ended up on Ellen. She has her own talk show. And so, there's definitely good things that can come out of the bad. And so, I was so vulnerable and I shared my experience, and I did not realize that Caitlyn was going to get me on Ellen. I found out with the rest of the world, and it was so amazing. And let me tell you something, though that group of girls, like Shandy, Jen Richards, Jennifer Jeannie Boland, Angelica, like all of those women that I got to appear on that show, Leia as well. They're so powerful and they're so I love the great work that they get to do, and they're definitely inspiring, and to be able to just be more around them was just truly, truly incredible. And being able to facilitate that conversation with Caitlyn was that was a great thing. Now, I will say there's some things that when I look back at it now, back then, keeping in mind, I like to say I was a kid in activism because activism was something that kind of like fell into my laps. And I will say, if I could go back now and look at some things could have been done a little differently, especially with my part. I feel like I could have acknowledged some isms or some things that were kind of going on within that time frame. But the past is the past, but the rest is history. But it's definitely how propelled me to strengthen my activism more from appearing on that show. And Caitlyn, I think she's a great, amazing person. Last time I talked to her was about over a year ago. Actually, we were at an event, but the reality of it is, you know, having conversations about prestige and privilege and what that looks like are still really, really important conversations. You know, I, we have to really, really be willing to have those have that open dialogue with each other and continue to have those conversations. And acknowledge any hurt or pain that may have been caused. I think.
This is all very powerful. And Blossom, I just want to kind of share with you and my audience that in the face of the elevation of the reality of the horrors perpetrated against Black lives,
Hmm.
I become just more deeply aware of the issues. And I've been taking a deep dive into my own responsibility. I'm I ordered this book,
Oh,
How to Be an
yes.
Anti-Racist. I've just started to read it. I don't show that to be patronizing. I show that because I'm very aware that I need to be a student and I need to listen. So I'm completely aware that I'm not in a position to lead on this issue, that I am in a position to follow, and that it is vitally important for me to do that. The flip side of the coin is I have this platform that I've had for a long time and it's gotten bigger. So I wanted to amplify stories of people who are personally facing the perpetration about Black Lives Matter and the fact that all Black Lives Matter as a first step. And I'm wondering, I know that some people within the Black community don't want to hear from their white friends and say, what should I do? They want us to take responsibility ourselves. So I'm doing that. And I haven't really reached out to members of the Black community to say, what should I do? Because I've heard that message. It's up for me to figure it out. The other thing that I want to add before I open it up for you to comment on the same theme is that as a member of the LGBTQI plus activist community, I have had this misperception that we're all together fighting the same fight. And what I'm clearly aware of now is, oh no, I have much fewer battles to fight as a white
Hmm.
gay male who's living in the Mecca of Palm Springs, California.
Hmm.
I've said a lot, but I was wondering if you would just respond to the things that I have said and anything that might come to mind after my statement.
Yeah, Nick, I hear you. I definitely hear you when you talk about, not asking the Black community how to help. I hear you. The thing is, you do have a responsibility, and that responsibility is actually holding your other white counterparts accountable. Period. When you hear other white people being transphobic or homophobic or racist, it is up to you to call them out, to hold them accountable for their anti-blackness and what that looks like. That's what really being an accomplice and an ally, being an accomplice looks like. If you have any type of privilege, you got to start holding some of your very own accountable. And it's one of those complex conversations where honestly now, I don't 100% agree of all of us in the Black community saying, oh, it's up to you to figure it out. No, I think that we have to facilitate dialogue at least. But coming to that dialogue, have some education, have some knowledge. Or if there's something you don't understand, come with questions. That's how you can begin to facilitate honest dialogue. So you do have a responsibility as well. Um, Going to the LGBTQ statement, you are so right because I have been talking about this on my platform, and ironically, I'm going to talk about it again today about the T in the LGBTQ community. Just recently, LGBTQ worker protections were passed, and they're still protected. A lot of our dreamers who come to this country in search of a new life have their rights protected, which I am humbly so grateful that both of those things have happened because as we talk about intersectionality, there are some trans people who are both dreamers and, who work in the whole, under that whole LGBTQ spectrum, and that's great. But the reality of it is the trans community has also become the sacrificial lamb. The Trump administration has just taken away the healthcare rights of transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary individuals. So we're not talking enough about that, but we're talking a lot about all the other stuff that's happening in the LGBTQ community. And going back to what I was saying, it feels like trans people have become the sacrificial lamb to the Trump administration. And when we don't have enough of our LGBT siblings standing up for us, and they're not fighting for us, and they're not saying anything, it makes it seem like, okay, now that y'all gotten what y'all want, you don't give a damn about the rest of us. That's how it's looking. And it's like that in the Black movement as well, too, when it comes to Black trans people. Black trans people have the hardest time in the Black community. We're the most disenfranchised. We deal with homelessness. We deal with substance abuse. Like, we're dealing with so many isms, not just from other people of color and white people. We're having to deal with it from other Black people in our community. And the same Black men that we're going out here protesting for because of police brutality are also killing Black trans women. And we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it because some people feel like we are watering the Black Lives Matter movement. Let me talk about that right quick. The reality of it is, think of a
Not that you have any opinions on the matter, Blossom. Preach.
Let me tell you something. When we talk about that, think of a seed that you put into the ground. Now, you water that seed, wanting it to grow and be abundant. But the reality of it is you also need sunlight. And that sunlight is shining an issue on a community that's often unheard, which is the Black trans community. So if you don't shine a light on the issues that's affecting the Black trans community and the Black community, how can that movement, which is actually the seed that we're trying to grow, actually grow and be prosperous? Because you can't leave Black trans people out of the conversation. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to do that. And, we got to be willing to facilitate these honest conversations. And I will say more recently, I have been able to do that. It's one of those things where either you get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, then you're late to the party. You're really late.
I feel like you should have your own show. I mean,
I'm manifesting it.
You have such. I think this is a good time. I'd like to make a personal statement to you and to the audience about my approach to this and other issues. It's a prepared statement that's published at PromoHomo.TV. I'm committed to creating programming that includes, celebrates, and empowers the diversity and intersectionality of all of us. In this spirit, I'm taking responsibility to expand my world, which has been primarily informed by the white male experience. As I continue to take responsibility for the expansion of my own consciousness and therefore programming on this network, I invite you, in fact, I am relying on you to reach out to me to share your experience, strength, and hope, empowering me to empower you to share these vitally important, life-saving, world-changing true stories for the greatest good of all concerned. PromoHomo.TV is connecting the circuitry of humanity by creating programming for LGBTQ plus everyone.
I love that.
That's my pledge. One of the things I want to talk about, and this is going to segue into something fun we lined up, is the need to employ trans people and the challenges that trans people have in earning their livings. And you are an actress, and you do, the word actor is used to describe all genders. I don't know what word you like to use, actor or actress. Do you have a preference?
I like actress, but that's just me. But I totally get like the whole pronunciation and what that looks like. I totally get it.
So one of the things that you are doing to help make yourself a living is you're reading tarot cards. But
Yes.
before we get into that, because that's the light, fluffy conclusion of our program, you're going to give me a mini reading, and thank you in advance for that. I'd like to speak about your challenges and the challenges of trans people in general in finding work and finding ways of life and supporting themselves.
Absolutely. So, I have many jobs actually. I work a full time job, 8 to 5, in the nonprofit world in public health. Tarot reading is something that I love to do. It's part of my life, it's part of my platform. That's another means of income. I get to act in like short films and stuff like that. I've been working on some stuff, but because of COVID, a lot of that got pushed back. That's something. Being an activist as well too is another source of income for me. Like I feel privileged to have a lot. But the reality of it is a lot of my trans siblings don't. Especially coming from more conservative places where a lot of employers are not hiring trans people just based on the fact of who they are. A lot of trans people actually have to detransition to find work. I used to see that all the time living in Mississippi, all the time. I kid you not. And it was really, really interesting how, during the day you're dressed one way, but then when you come home at night, you're another way. I did that actually through college too. Um, you know, Trans people are definitely disproportionately affected. That's why you have to kind of add in all of the social economic determinants, such as like housing, substance abuse, unemployment, and what that looks like. A lot of us have to resort to sex work for survival. It's not always about pleasure. Sometimes that girl going out on the beat and working could be food in her stomach at the end of the night, or a roof over her head, as well too. And then luckily, me being in the sexual health field, being able to intersect the conversation of prep and pep to my trans sisters that are doing sex work. I think that's so powerful too. I think it's great that I get to be in so many different genres because I can implement a lot of what I'm doing into everything. If you look at my platform, I actually masquerade all of these things into one. Even when I do my tarot readings, it's activism. I'm an activist that likes to use tarot cards to make a point from a much more higher conscience, because a lot of things that people don't understand about the trans community are not understood in the earthly realms. You see what I'm saying? They're not really understood. So if I got to hit a higher conscience just to have because ironically, after I'm done with this, I'm actually going to make a video and post it on my Instagram. So follow me at Blossom C Brown if you want to see it. But you know, it's going to be. I think this is my unique way of really teaching people who don't live the trans experience what's really going on and how they can do better.
Well, that's beautifully stated. I want to articulate to you
Hmm.
my understanding of gender identity.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me whether or not you agree and correct me
Okay.
if I'm wrong. So, a lot of people get confused and they think that gender identity has something to do with biology, with appearance, with sexual orientation, and a variety of things that other people can see. But my understanding is that gender identity is strictly on who someone knows and declares themselves to be. Would you agree with that or disagree? And how would you add to that or provide something different?
For me, gender identity is basically who you identify as, who you go to bed at, who you go to bed as, who you wake up as. That's gender identity. Yourself, who you are attracted to, who
Who you know and declare yourself to be.
yeah, exactly. You know yourself, or you're getting to know yourself, because for some of us in the trans community, it's a journey to get to this point. Because for me, it took me forever to realize that I was trans and that I was the way that I am. So it's different. Everybody has different journeys. With sexual orientation, again, that's just who you are attracted to. The reality of it is we have gay trans people in the community. We have straight trans people in the community. We have bisexual trans people in the community. We have pansexual trans people in the community. And I just think that we in the LGBTQ community get so stuck on sexual orientation that we dismiss the whole ideology of gender identity for trans and queer people, that it's gotten to be too much. And the reality of it is it's kind of like, okay, you're gonna have to get off the boat if you don't really understand gender identity and sexual orientation at this point, because so much is happening in this world right now. And at this point, if you don't understand it, you're not trying to understand it. You're really, really not. And the thing is, again, even if you are new and you're just trying to understand it, you would have already taken the time, gone on Google to try to educate yourself. And then any questions or anything else that you may be confused about, then that'll be when you ask. It's about doing the research yourself. Um, honestly, for me, Nick, I'll be honest with you. I've kind of gotten to that point where I'm kind of over the whole trans 101, and now we're in trans 301. You know what I mean? With like everything that's just affecting us in the trans community. And so, yeah, but that's pretty much it for me. Like, just gender identity, just who you are and who you go to bed as, and sexual orientation, who you go to bed, I guess, with, or who you love and are attracted
Very well stated. Thank you for that. I think, frankly, every trans person that I ask probably is going to have their own unique answer.
Yeah.
Although I imagine there are a lot of similarities. Let's segue into your tarot reading. It can be short and sweet in one card or however it works. And then I'm going to give you the opportunity to address anything that we might have missed in the interview. So talk me and us through the process.
All right, Nick. So, Nick, this is for you. I want spirit. So I've already shuffled the cards. I've already done everything I need to do. I'm actually going to pull from, I have 4 decks right here. I'm going to pull from 2, an oracle deck and also a tarot card. And so this is just a message from spirit, just a general message from spirit, and see what's going on with you. Okay, so let's do it. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Spirit, what do you want to say to Nick today? What is the message you have for Nick? One card flew out on you. You saw that?
Oh, it flew out. Hey, honey, I flew out a long time ago.
Actually, 2 of them fell out for you. And so let's see what we have, man. We have the Star. Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
And the 6 of Coins in reverse. Okay, here we go. Okay. The Star really talks about having hope, having faith in what you're doing. And I'm getting a sense of like this is what your platform is based on now, because your platform with PromoHomo.TV, it used to be completely different, and now you feel like you've gotten into a better place with it, with the Star card right here. Having hope in your abilities, having faith in what you can do, manifesting that it could be really great for you in your career and what you can do. Now with the 6 of Coins in reverse here, this really comes to talk about being very careful, okay? Being very careful about giving, okay? Because there's some giving with some strings attached here. And that may not be coming from you, but other people that you may bring on, or other people that maybe you be doing dealings with. You have to be very mindful of who's there for you and who's not there for you. Okay.
Is that cautioning me to look at my giving and whether or not it's transactional and I'm expecting things from other people in exchange, or vice versa, or both?
It's a little bit of both here.
It's looking at the whole aspect of giving out of generosity of spirit and not out of some transactional goal.
Exactly. Don't think that, here's the thing. If you give to somebody, that's great, but don't be expecting them to give you a shout out on social media. Don't expect them to, write a long post thanking you for it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the art of giving is just that, giving alone without having to expect anything in return, because you are going to get your blessings again with the Star card right here, higher vibrations, higher manifestations, with you just giving. That means giving other voices a platform, and just really, really, again, as you even, because what's going to happen is with your programming, it's going to grow to the point where you really are going to have some influencers that's going to come on there, come on your program. But the reality of it is they may not promote the program the way that you want it to be promoted. And that's okay. You've done your part. That's what Spirit wants to communicate to you. So that will be coming up for you real soon. Spirit, what's the last message for Nick? What is the last? Look at that. Memories of love. 2 more, Spirit. 2 more. Two more cards. Thank you, Spirit. Look at
That's
that.
about all. That's about all I have right now are memories of love. But I'll hope to create some new ones.
So actually, three more cards came out for you, and so these are your final cards. Hope. I literally just discussed that with you. Having hope. You see how that
Wow.
card fell out? Hope.
Wow.
Moving on. Again, you've moved on with your platform from one place to another. You're moving to higher, greater ground. You are. And then last card, third eye chakra. Woo! Opening up that third eye chakra, which is between your brows right here, and seeing into the unknown, seeing what you could do. Now, with this memories of love card right here, okay, you know, there could be some work in your love life. There's a little bit of healing that needs to happen in your love life in order for you to receive more out of the love life. And only you know what I'm talking about. So you don't have to discuss any of that, but just know that memories of love could also it definitely talks about relationships, but it also talks about getting back into things that you used to love doing that you don't get to do anymore, maybe because of a busy work schedule, maybe because of things that have been shifting in your life. But now is the perfect time during this disruption that you step back into the things that you love because it's going to make you feel better. And again, with this star card right here, manifest, 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 manifest right here. Aquarius rules this card right here. So, do you have air in your chart? Do you know if your sun, moon, or rising is an air sign?
I'm a Taurus with a Pisces rising and a Capricorn moon.
Okay, so you're Earth. Okay, so possibly you could be dealing with an air sign soon, an Aquarius real
Okay.
soon. So you may be.
Okay.
So if you are single or whatnot, somebody is an Aquarius and they're coming.
When the moon is in the seventh house. Blossom, how do people connect with you if they want a professional tarot card
Yeah,
reading?
so I have two pages. So Blossom C Brown is my Instagram, and then Tell All Blossom is my tarot page. And so I'm gonna open up my schedule in July with everything that's been going on right now with all the shooting, like filming and stuff like that. I haven't been able to open up my schedule as much, but in July, it will be open. Just DM me on that page, and I'll talk about pricing and what we do in my session. Because it's a very powerful section. Like what me and you did. This is only scratching the surface. I actually like to peel back the layers, and it kind of feels more like life coaching with me. Like I like to get down to the core of everything, and we try to break the blockages in that core and to begin to build you up. And so people who have done readings with me feel more empowered, more motivational. Because ironically, Nick, just seeing some things in your just right here, like we would have to have a whole session to talk about a lot of stuff, but we'll try to get the blockages down. But but you also have to be, and this is just for everybody, you have to be open to receiving too.
If I could get you to take a picture of that combination of cards
Yes.
later and send them to me, I'd be deeply honored. Um, I saw the trailer of a new film that just hit Netflix within 2 or 3 days. It's a documentary called Disclosure.
Hmm.
I got goosebumps watching it, but it appears to tell the trans experience unlike any other film before it. I was wondering if you've had a chance to see the film and what you would want to say about other people that might want to watch it.
Yeah, I have not saw it yet, only because of a busy work schedule. That's literally the reason. And so I'm hoping to watch it this weekend finally. But I see a lot of great people that I know in that film, like Laverne and so many others that they're very passionate about what they do, and they really care about others, and they were really vulnerable to open up their experience. So I definitely will see that because we have to support our trans siblings. I would encourage everybody to look at it. I don't personally know what that conversation is going to look like because I have to see it first myself. But it's a time where the voices of trans people are rising, and they're rising out of all genres. And so it's really important that we take the time to listen, that we take the time to educate ourselves. And shout out to everybody that worked on that documentary.
Well,
You know,
if the trailer it's anything like I mean, I got goosebumps watching the trailer. It was just like so powerful.
Yes.
At the at the top of the show, I said, "And I'll be black with Blossom Brown." I meant
Ah,
to say, "I'll be back." So I just thought that was hilarious.
it's all good.
I wanted to know: is there anything at all about anything that you would like to add to the interview that we haven't touched upon yet?
Yeah, honestly, it's just time for us to take care of each other. That's the simple point of everything. I'm gonna throw a little astrology and numerology in there with you. Pluto is in retrograde right now to roughly about October 4th. Pluto is the planet of regeneration, transformation, death, and rebirth. Okay. This is the year 2020 in numerology. 2020 reduces to the number 4, which talks about hard work, foundations, and pragmatism. We are literally making the change, laying down the foundation for change now. That's what's literally going on in the world. We are tearing down foundations that no longer are sturdy. We're building better foundations, and we are setting ourselves up for the change and the freedom that we have been seeking. And so it's just really, really important that during this time we take care of each other, that we look after each other, that we uphold each other, and we really just take the time to do what we need to do, to be honest with you. But it's gonna happen. I have faith, and I think change has slowly been coming, and we're here for it.
Well, I just want to honor you, and I want to say, in all authenticity, that I love you for your
Oh,
expression of your humanity on the planet. I'm
thank
deeply
you.
moved by your story and by who you are and who you're showing up to be. My personal mission statement is to honor and express my creativity in a way that makes a difference. And my work in media is about connecting the circuitry of humanity. And I could not be more honored that my humanity has connected with yours.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And you have an open invitation to come on my show as well as your trans brothers and sisters. Just go to
You.
PromoHomo.TV. There's a place for people to reach out to me. And
Thank you.
I want to wish you a happy Global Pride. It's streaming right now, June 27th, 2020, on Todd Call's YouTube channel. I was mesmerized by it. The great thing about YouTube is it will be available for replay. So whenever you see this broadcast, check out Global Pride. It's so amazing what's happening. And the premiere of my network focused with interviews on the 3 co-chairs of Global Pride and one of the executive producers. So thank you so much, Blossom. Once again, it's great to see you.
Right back at you. You be safe out there.
Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye
Yes.
bye. So, for those of you who have watched, I want to thank you for taking your time out to watch. Notes from Hollywood reports profiles of people passionately pursuing professions in the entertainment industry, and I'm so honored that Blossom C. Brown has been my guest today. This Notes from Hollywood originated 30 years ago as a column that I launched in 1990. There's a big history behind it, but I'm so happy that it's taken on a new life here. And until next time, I'm Nicholas Snow.